So I matched with somebody who said they liked Midwest emo, and I got excited to talk about Get Up Kids and Promise Ring. I asked her what her favorite band was, and she said Front Porch Step. Wait, what? So it turns out that when I wasn't paying attention, there was a Midwest emo revival, and there's a whole new wave of bands that I missed out on. So I threw Aware on, and it instantly feels familiar. Released in 2013, Aware by Front Porch Step captured a moment in the early 2010s emo revival when deeply personal acoustic songwriting was resonating with a whole new generation of listeners online. The tracks, built around little more than an acoustic guitar and emotionally raw lyrics, the album became a staple among fans of the pop punk and emo scene. Songs like Private Fears in Public Places turned Front Porch Step into a recognizable name within that community almost overnight.
'Cause I'd rather fight with you than laugh with another.
The project's legacy would later become complicated by controversy surrounding the singer, leaving the album in a complicated position within the scene's history. Front Porch Step is the acoustic solo project of Maryland musician Jake McElfresh. Before Aware, McElfresh built a following through self-released material and social media, particularly YouTube and Tumblr, where the acoustic emo and sad boy songwriting had developed a strong audience online. His earlier EP, So Help Me God, circulated heavily through the pop-punk emo revival scene and helped him gain traction. The stripped-down acoustic approach made the songs accessible to fans of the band from the emerging acoustic wave connected to the pop-punk scene. The album itself was recorded and released in 2013. When you compare it to many of the other albums from the same label, it was fairly minimalist in how it was produced. The album was produced by Nick Ingram, who had already worked with several bands in the emo and pop-punk scene. The album reminds me a bit of Swiss Army Romance, in as much as it's primarily acoustic, guitar-driven, minimalist emo music.
Me feel how your smile makes me nervous, or how the fact. Thank you.
With the occasional textures added to spice it up. It is very much a deliberate choice to help create the intimate singer-songwriter aesthetic of the project, evoking a small venue or an intimate setting. And Aware falls primarily within that acoustic emo, folk punk adjacent space. It's somewhere between Dashboard Confessional and acoustic Get Up Kids tracks. There are times that the lyrics feel insanely familiar. Much like early Dashboard, the songs feel like a confessional and emotionally raw. And like Swiss Army Romance, the songs lean into storytelling and keeping the arrangements simple to help highlight that. The album focuses on clean melodic hooks, like the Get Up Kids, paired with an intensely emotional vocal delivery. The melody in Runaway feels like it could fit on a Dashboard Confessional album. It even shares the theme of emotional desperation inside of a failing relationship that you hear all over Swiss Army Romance. But it also sits squarely in the album's themes of self-blame, insecurity, and dependency. Lullaby feels a little different than the rest of the album leading up to it, and not just musically. The lyrics start to express hope instead of despair. It's promising loyalty and comfort to an imaginary loved one. After this, the album does start to feel a little more unique.
I saw you standing on that bridge. Right then I knew the life that I would like to live.
The Day You Took Good Away felt like it had more in common with the Beatles' A Day in the Life than it did with first wave Midwest emo. And there were times when I was singing A Day in the Life in my head along to the track. But thematically, it's probably the darkest song on the album, dealing with the feelings of grief after suicide. Island of the Misfit Boy feels like an acoustic track by The Used. Thematically, it's another darker track focusing on feelings of isolation. It frames their feelings in the aftermath and reflects on their alienation and feelings of not belonging anywhere.
And I'm waiting for the bus, but I'm not on the bench. I'm just spread across the ground, making friends with cement.
As a whole, the album revolves around deeply personal themes that are not uncommon in this genre. You touch on the common themes of heartbreak, insecurity, loneliness, self-doubt, and emotional vulnerability. The writing is very straightforward and often resembling an almost diary-like confession rather than metaphor-heavy poetry. Many of the songs are in a first-person perspective, helping to reinforce to the listener that you're hearing the singer's private thoughts. When it was released in 2013, Aware received generally positive reviews, which seems odd given that the themes of the album are more than a little common in the genre. They did, however, feel the lyrics were relatable, which I can relate to. I've drawn so many parallels to Swiss Army Romance that it would not do this album justice if I neglected to do it again here. This album was able to reproduce that relatability that made early Dashboard so captivating, and it is no small feat. The controversy significantly damaged his reputation and effectively halted the momentum that the project had built. So while the album is remembered as a defining example of early 2010s acoustic emo, and a product of that Tumblr era emo revival. Its legacy has ultimately become overshadowed by the controversy from the singer's actions. The album gained significant traction through YouTube and Tumblr communities, which were major drivers of music discovery at the time. The project's name, Front Porch Step, reflects the intimate aesthetic of someone playing acoustic songs on a front porch or in a small personal setting. Many of the songs on this album became popular covers on YouTube by aspiring musicians.
So cold is the wind that blows your hair.
Helped by the album's stripped-down production, making it relatively easy for fans to learn and perform the songs themselves. Despite the controversy surrounding the artist, the songs themselves still circulate widely on streaming platforms. So, while the album is good to me, it feels more like a melting pot of influences, rather than something uniquely their own. Despite that, it is still impressive they were able to capture that relatability of early Dashboard Confessional tracks without feeling like a copy. Depending on your point of view, the simplicity of the music was either loved and helped the album resonate, or it was a detractor, making it feel too simplistic and repetitive. This leaves you with an album that is just as complicated as its legacy. Now, since I missed this at the time, I have to ask, or is the internet respectively giving it more importance than it actually had?